Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, but we're going to have a look at another brewery who I have never tried anything from before. From what I understand, these guys are very new out of the starting blocks, but they do seem to be making a bit of a ripple in the craft beer scene over here. A lot of people are saying very good things about these guys, so definitely cool to introduce you guys to this brewery for the first time here on the channel, and I'm very curious to see what they have in store for us. For this review then, we are once again going to head a little bit north. We're going to go to Karlstad on the northern bank of Vänern in Värmland county, and we're going to have a look at my first beer from 10 Hands Brewing. So this one is called Dragonfly. It comes in at 6.3% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy style IPA. So this beer was released through Systembolaget as part of the Lokal Småskaligt assortment for July of 2020. I believe the exact release date was the 1st of July this month. Always varies a little bit depending on weekends and things, of course, but this one was released along with one other 10 Hands beer. I forget the name of that one now, but they will be releasing a couple of others over the next few months actually, so probably you will see me review a few more beers from these guys in subsequent releases from Systembolaget. But yeah, very cool to introduce this brewery to you. As I say, very good things have been said about them, and I hope that this beer does reflect that. So we'll see how we get on with this one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from 10 Hands Brewing. Very first time I'm tasting one of their beers, as I said. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about 10 Hands Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So as I mentioned to you earlier, 10 Hands Brewing are based in Karlstad on the banks of Vänern on the northern side of the lake, one of the Great Lakes of Sweden. And this is in Värmland county, and you'll find it kind of to the northeast-ish of Gothenburg on the west coast. But the 5 friends behind this company are Robert Hedel, Johan Eklund, Fredrik Steen, Göran Larsson, and then Jan Karlsson as well, and they all each own a 20% share of the company, and the company itself was officially founded back in November of 2018. All of them have some home brewing experience apparently, and they do try to, you know, spread things equally about the brewery from what I understand, get everyone involved in the decisions for the company and stuff like that, but it's Johan Eklund who is the main brewer. So they released their first beer in March of 2019. This was an IPA called Firstborn. I'm not sure if that one is going to be released at some point soon. It would be cool to try their first beer, I have to say. But over the course of 2019 they produced 20,000 litres, so still a very small operation compared to some of the other craft breweries in Sweden. But there are some who've been around for a long time that are just producing very small amounts like that as well. But they started releasing their beers through Systembolaget, the state monopoly in Sweden, in 2020. I actually believe it was this month that they released their first beers, July 2020, and as it stands, as I'm filming this review for you, they've produced in the region of about 25 different beers. I believe the exact number when I took a quick look on Untappd was 23. But I'm sure by the time some of you watch this video that will have changed quite a bit. But yeah, that was all the information I was really able to find on 10 Hands Brewing for the moment. Not surprising when you consider how new they are. But as I say, this is a brewery that seems to be making a little bit of a ripple at the moment. They do seem to be a specialist IPA brewery from what I've seen as well. When I looked through the list of all the beers on Untappd, pretty much all of them were IPAs, and I'm not sure if there were actually any other styles. I'm pretty sure all of them were IPAs. So a little bit like Apex Brewing in that sense actually. And I think Apex Brewing haven't even produced a West Coast IPA or a black IPA or anything like that yet. So yeah, curious to see whether these guys will do a West Coast IPA or something like that in the future as well. But as I said, it seemed to be very well respected at the moment, and people are talking about this brewery, so hopefully this beer reflects the hype, and we'll just need to see how we go with it. But that's all the information for the moment that I can give you on 10 Hands Brewing. Maybe in the future I can expand the notes of the history section for a little bit. But in the meantime, if you want to learn more about this brewery, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all of the different beers that they've done so far. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. As you can see, there is the Dragonfly chilling on the front. He looks as if he's, you know, maybe had a few too many beers and maybe a few herbal substances or something like that as well. It looks as if he's a little bit worse for wear, but I have to say the artwork is pretty cool. There you can see at the bottom there is the 10 Hands Brewing Company symbol, but as I said, this one is a 6.3% New England hazy style IPA. It contains wheat and oats, it says, and apparently it's hopped with Citra mainly and a little bit of Equinox too. So we know Citra is that lovely big mango hop, sometimes a little bit of darker tropical fruit, but a few complexities with it as well, and then Equinox got a lovely kind of juicy limey quality. But yeah, I'm curious as for the motivation behind the name Dragonfly. You know, they're really interesting creatures that I had to teach. When I was a school teacher, I had to teach my little kids about different bugs and things like that, the different classes of animals. So I taught them about insects, and dragonflies were one of the ones that we looked at, and they've got ridiculously good vision. I think it's about their eyes refresh. They've got a refresh rate of about 100 frames per second or something like that, so they see faster than humans do, and they can make, you know, decisions of whether to go for prey and things in, you know, milliseconds. It's craziness. It really is craziness. But yeah, you can also see on the back here, there is the 10 Hands Brewing Company symbol, and when I looked at this I thought that reminds me of the thing from Futurama, so I had to go and look up the name of that, and it's Yivo in the Beast with a Billion Backs Futurama movie. So yeah, it reminds me of that, because even the artwork is actually a little bit similar to that. But yeah, the artwork, I have to say, is pretty cool. It doesn't say on the cans who is responsible for the artwork, but yeah, that might be a nice touch for them, is to put the artist's signature on this or something. But this one, 330ml can, and I think I paid about 35 Swedish kroners for this. So this one is about, you know, about €3.50. That's about £3 So yeah, about $3, $3 US 50. So yeah, let's get this guy out then, and we'll get on with the tasting. As I said, a 6.3% New England hazy IPA, whatever you want to call it, with a bit of Citra and Equinox in it. So let's get it out and into the glass. Curious to see what this one has in store, but I will say the aroma that we're getting out of this one at the moment is pretty damn nice. So yeah, that head is going to fade away very, very quickly. So yeah, but for the moment the head is about just over a half finger, maybe a 2/3 finger, and I would say it's a kind of cream colour. It's not a perfect white, but that is just going to fade away and just leave a very kind of foamy, a very thin foamy layer on top and a foamy ring around the edge. But yeah, nice looking beer, this one. As you can see with it, it's poured a lovely kind of bright, it's one of the more yellow leaning New England IPAs that I've come across. I'd say it's almost the same colour as like mango juice or something. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head, but I mean overall it does look you know, it does look pretty damn nice, I have to say. So yeah, nothing overly surprising about this one in terms of its appearance. It's not the soupiest and gloopiest of New England IPAs that you're going to come across, but it does look like a pretty damn nice one, I have to say. So yeah, nothing surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. Let's have a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. I'm very, very curious about this, I have to say. Ooh, yeah, that does smell pretty damn nice. Yeah, I mean, it's got everything that you would kind of expect from this style. First impression of it is that it's not one of the kind of maltier New England ones that you're going to come across. It does actually smell if it's a bit more kind of hoppy leaning, if that makes sense. And of course, you know, IPAs generally speaking are hop forward beers, and at 6.3%, this one is kind of in the middle of the spectrum. Obviously the higher up you go in the alcohol content, the more maltiness and things you're going to get out of them, because the more wheats and more oat are used, you know, more oats are used to kind of bring up the alcohol level, sugars being converted to alcohol, blah blah blah. But this one, to me, it strikes me as a very kind of straight up middle of the road. But I think it leans, to be honest with you, I think this one leans towards the oaty side of things. If you focus on the malt base, it's the oaty kind of smoothness that sticks out for me on that side of things. So yeah, let's try and just break down this aroma a little bit more. Towards the kind of back of the nose, if you like, it's got more of a kind of wheaty bitiness to it, and it smells like quite a, the wheatiness that you get out of this one does almost come across as very, very bright, to be honest with you. I like that about it. But yeah, you've got a lovely oaty creaminess there, which seems to dominate the sweet part of the aroma. There's a little touch of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing, maybe even a tiny little bit of a kind of Werther's Original type note coming out of it. But I would say it's mainly the oats. The oats, the kind of oaty, slightly creamy note out of this one is the dominant aroma for the malty side of the beer, actually. So I really like how that... I really do I like how that side of it goes together. So yeah, definitely an oaty leaning New England for me. But I will say that the wheat isn't unnoticeable, if you like. The oats don't particularly dominate the wheat. I just think it leans a bit more towards that kind of oaty side of things. But in terms of its malt base, nothing particularly surprising in terms of the style. And this is the thing, you know, there's so many New England IPAs these days. It's just all about, you know, having one that's basically got a good flavour. As stupid as it sounds to kind of say that, there's so many. You know, this style is no longer about doing something, you know, outrageous and special. It's about, you know, getting a good balance to the beer and you know, getting good combinations of flavour. And they've gone, you know, Citra and Equinox. It's a fairly used combination. Citra, Mosaic, Equinox. You know, these combinations seem to be really quite popular at the moment. And I have to say, the notes that this one has work out very nicely. So let's focus on that hoppy side of things then. So for me, this one, there's a teeny little bit of earthiness to it, but that's quite minimal. It's quite floral, I would say. There is a good little bit of floral aromaticity to this one. You can really get that kind of towards the front of the nose. It definitely sticks. So the green side of the hops for me really leans towards that floral aromatic side of things, but it's not, you know, it's not massively in your face, if you like. There's a little touch of grassiness to it, but yeah, mainly floral in terms of the green side of the hops. For me, there is a... for me, there's, on the fruity side of things, it is actually quite citrusy and zesty, but you do get a bit of the tropical fruit kind of balancing that out. I mean, you do get the mangoes out of this one, and you do have a little touch of a slightly stronger, more pungent passion fruit. So yeah, the mangoes, the passion fruit from the citrus definitely coming out in this one. But the Equinox, I think, is also giving you, it does have a good little bit of presence to it, to be honest. The beer almost does smell very slightly orangey, but for these two hops, the orangey notes, it's quite unusual for it to smell a little bit orangey. But I have noticed that when you combine Citra and Mosaic, it's not Citra and Mosaic, Citra and Equinox before, it can almost give you a little bit of a slightly orangey presence. There is just a wee bit of like a tangerine orangey kind of thing in there, in my mind, which is, you know, as I say, when you know the hops, it's quite unusual. But for me, there's a little bit of there is definitely a bit of that kind of juicy lime quality that you always expect of Equinox. There's a wee touch of an almost kind of slightly gooseberry-ish type thing to it as well, which is one of the complexities that you can sometimes get from Citra. But Citra will also contribute lemon and limey qualities to some beers as well, and it depends what malts you use, what yeast you use, and things like that. Hops can behave in, you know, markedly different ways depending on what malt base you combine them with. Just look at how Simcoe behaves in black IPAs. You know, it gives you some really lovely red fruity qualities, but if you put it in a normal kind of New England IPA, it gives you a passion fruit, a really soft, juicy passion fruity note. So yeah, just, you know, hops, they can really behave in different ways depending on the yeasts and everything like this. So yeah, really interesting things to think about there. But yeah, this beer, as I say, lovely and mangoey, mainly kind of mango. You might detect a few kind of the softer things in there, you know, like, you know, papayas, apricots, these kind of softer tropical fruits. But yeah, passion fruit, bit of juicy mango, almost a bit an orangey kind of element to the beer, a wee bit of lime, and just a little touch of like a kind of gooseberry-ish note coming out of this one for me. But the gooseberry, I think, is fairly minimal. I would say fairly minimal in this one. But the aroma of this is very, very nice. It comes across as a very sort of inviting beer. But let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Dragonfly, a 6.3% New England IPA from 10 Hands Brewing. in Karlstad on the northern banks of Värmland County here in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange Skull. Oh yeah, yeah. That is absolutely solid. That is nice. Just on that first taste, I'll tell you straight away, I can see why people are talking about this brewery. You know, the New England IPA, it's a style. It's a really popular style just now. I mean, stating the obvious here, but it is a very, very popular style just now. This is what most people are drinking, and you know, personally, I've said in other videos that I do enjoy a good German lager. I do miss the West Coast IPAs, the black IPAs and things like this. But you know, when you discover new breweries that are brewing this style this well, it is, you know, it is a welcome thing in the beer scene, if you like. So I can see just on that first little sip I've had, if there are other beers are like this, I can see why people are saying that this is a brewery to keep an eye on. So I think we'll need to do that. I think we will need to do that. But yeah, this one was a really nicely done beer, I have to say. So yeah, thumbs up to 10 Hands Brewing with this one. As I was saying, from the aroma and things, the way this beer, you know, there's nothing surprising about this beer, I would say. There isn't anything surprising about it. It's just well crafted. And with this style these days, you can't ask for much more than that. If you're going to have a New England IPA, I don't think there's that much different that you could do with it, to be honest, in terms of the flavour profile and stuff, apart from new hops, obviously. But yeah, this one is really well done. So, as I say, keep an eye on this brewery. Let's try and break the flavour down a little bit and just see how we can describe it. So yeah, the wheat is a little bit more prominent in the flavour, I think, of this one than it was in the aroma. The more I'm drinking of it as well, the more you do get a wee bit of a kind of graininess out of this one. The yeast, there's something familiar about the yeast in this one as well. I do wonder if it's a Vermont yeast or something that they've used in this, because it does give you a little bit of that kind of darker graininess the further into the aftertaste that you go. So that's an interesting point to make about this one. You know, I'd be very curious to know, is it a London fog yeast or is it like a Lallemand, or what exactly is it? But there is something very familiar about this, about the yeast strain in this one. So yeah, let's break that down. So yeah, let's just look at the flavour profile then. So straight away with this one, you can feel that lovely pale malty base, that blankets the middle of your tongue. If you go towards the back third of your palate, the final third of your tongue, you can feel the slightly thicker wheaty notes coming out of the beer. It's got a lovely, the wheat does have a little bit of bitiness to it, but that's not overly prominent, if that makes sense. There is a wee touch of an almost slightly spicy character to it, but again, that's very, very minimal. But you can really feel the sort of white bready notes kind of thickening up a little bit with this beer, to be honest. So that's another interesting point to make about it as well. But yeah, the flavour out of this is pretty damn good, I have to say. As you move further forward into the middle of your palate, into the middle third of your tongue, as I was saying with this before, it does actually it does have a good little bit of a kind of pale malty character. The middle of the palate, you've almost got like a little island on this one, and it's a very, very light, it's got a very light oiliness to it. And that's where you get these sort of slightly biscuity, these slightly McVitie's digestive-y, and kind of very slightly, I don't think this one's so much of a Werther's Original type note, but there is a wee bit of just a lightly kind of biscuity oil type quality there. But as you move further forward on that middle third of your tongue, it's got a nice, it really does have a very nice, how do you say it? It really has a very nice kind of oaty creamy quality to it, definitely. Really nice oaty sort of creaminess coming out of the beer, and I do like how that goes together. I like how that comes out of it. The oaty notes are very kind of smooth, but it's not the thickest creaminess that you're going to come across. If you go to the kind of Front corners of your palate then just move diagonally back. You might get one or two very light woody notes out of the beer, but again, that's very kind of minimal. But as I say, the further you go into the aftertaste, the middle of your palate does dry out a little bit, and you start to get more of a kind of slightly grainy quality, kind of slightly grainy dryness, I think, out of this one, the further that you go into the aftertaste. So that's an interesting point to make about this beer. There is I do think there is something that's making me want to say that this is a Vermont yeast, and it's because of the way it's got that kind of slightly darker, dry, grainy-ish quality comes out of it. It's the way that the middle of your palate evolves in this one that makes me want to say it's got a Vermont yeast in it. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there is a tiny little bit of earthiness there, but as you move further forward along the sides of the tongue, it does gradually come out more and more and more, and as you get, it does evolve more to be more kind of floral. As you reach the front corners of the palate, it's got a nice little bit of a kind of slight spiciness to it. Then round the front curve of the tongue, it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy in my mind. So I do like how that comes out of it. The green side of the hops for me, quite floral, maybe not quite as floral as the aroma would give you the impression of, not quite as biased towards the floral side of things. But the front third of the palate, that's where you get these nice fruity notes coming out of the beer. But yeah, I like how this. I do like how this goes together on the fruity side of things as well. So yeah, on that front third of the tongue then, if you go towards the back of that, you'll get these slightly stronger, it has got a bit of passion fruit to this. I don't think it's quite as pungent as grapefruit, but yeah, there is a good little bit of a passion fruity note to this one. As you move kind of further forward from that, you've got a nice little bit of a mango-y quality, and as you reach the very kind of front, the kind of front tip of the tongue, if you like, it's a kind of combination of it does have a wee bit of a slightly orangey flavour to it, but it's got the limey notes are coming out of this one quite nicely. So it's almost just like a tiny little bit of an orangey, oily sweetness, but then it's lime sitting on top of that. So yeah, fruity notes, front third of the tongue, passion fruit, strong dark passion fruit, the kind of juicier mangoes in there, but the mango does have a bit of pungency to it in fairness. Then you've got teeny little bit of orange then between that and the front tip of your tongue. It's a kind of juicy sort of limey quality there. There is a bit of a citrusy zestiness coming off the kind of front curve of your tongue there, which is quite nice. So I do like how that goes together as well. But yeah, I think the more you drink of this too, it does get a little bit more kind of juicy. But yeah, a good little bit of a citrusy, zesty quality coming out of the front of the palate there as well, which is quite nice. But yeah, the way that all the flavours in this fit together are really pretty damn nice. I mean, you know, this one is you know, the brewery that's very close by that it's going to get compared to would be the likes of Apex. You've got a few other breweries like Dugas, Bibliothek and things like that down in Gothenburg. You know, these guys, in terms of the quality of the IPAs, they don't look out of place against the other players in this game, the Brewskis, the Stigbergets, the O's and things like that. They really don't look out of place. And I mean, if this is what they're producing early on, they're only going to get better as well, and it's already a solid product that they've got here. So, you know, thumbs up to 10 Hands Brewing on this one. I like what they've got here, so I will be keeping an eye on this brewery over the next while. But yeah, this one is pretty nice. You have got a little bit of a bridge almost between the kind of front third of your tongue and the middle third. It has got a little bit of an almost kind of slightly darker grainy quality there. There's a bit of a kind of darker grainy edge between the fruity side of the beer and the malty side of it. So that's an interesting point to make about this one as well. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, I think we've covered the flavour quite enough. I'd say that this is a mid-bodied beer. Carbonation's very smooth on this one. The mouthfeel, as I say, it's not the creamiest in New England you're going to come across. Yeah, it's not the creaminess that you're going to come across. It's got a nice kind of cleanliness to it, which is, you know, probably water quality. This is a thing that I find constantly with the Nordic beers. Water quality, they always feel very clean. A little bit of an oil, in fairness, the water does give it a little bit of an oiliness as well, so there's a bit of creaminess underneath, but I think the oiliness and the wetness of this beer dominate. In terms of IBUs, I'm unsure about this one. I want to say that this one's a little bit heavier, maybe 40 or 50 IBUs, but it might just be the kind of slightly darker flavours from the yeast that are giving me that impression. But I do find this one a little bit more bitter than some of the other New Englands that are out there. So I think this one could be 40 or maybe even 50 IBUs, because you do get a nice little bit of dankness. On the further you go into the aftertaste, you do get a little bit more dankness around the sides of your palate and the back of your palate as well, which is interesting. But yeah, the malt base, like I say, quite light. I find this one almost quite light and slightly crisper in the malt base. There is a bit of oaty creaminess and a bit of kind of thicker wheaty note at the back, but yeah, almost slightly more crisp in its malt base, with a tiny little bit of sweetness, good little bit of hoppy bitterness, as I said, and the fruity characters in this one, I think, are pretty interesting too. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. I think this is a really interesting beer, this one, and it's definitely piqued my interest in this brewery and makes me want to review a few of their other things over the next while as well. So you'll definitely be seeing 10 Hands Brewing reviewed on the channel again in the future. But yeah, a solid IPA this one, and I would recommend you try this if you get the chance. So yeah, this one was the Dragonfly 6.3% New England Hazy IPA from 10 Hands Brewing in Karlstad on the banks of Vänern in Värmland County here in Sweden. A brewery that I'm going to keep an eye on for sure, and I can see why people were talking about this as a brewery to keep an eye on. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from 10 Hand Brewing as well. Do give me some other brewery recommendations. I know there's a lot of breweries in Sweden that I haven't heard of yet. There's about 500 breweries these days. So if you know one that I haven't reviewed, you know, if you guys can tell me about that in the comment section, that would be awesome, because you can always find, you know, little gems like this. You find some real gems from the very small Swedish breweries, and that a lot of that is because of how strong the home brewing culture is. So yeah, do keep me up to date on what's going on in the with all these different Swedish breweries as well. So yeah, thank you again for watching my reviews. The Dragonfly 6.3% New England IPA from 10 Hands Brewing, Karlstad, Värmland here in Sweden. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, skål, cheers, make sure you check out 10 Hands Brewing from Karlstad.